Hello friends, good afternoon and welcome to EduSat Live Lectures. Dear friends, today we are starting with a new MOOC on Microeconomics Part 1. In this MOOC, especially in this lecture, we will be talking about a problem of scarcity, choice and opportunity, as well as cost of production possibility curve. To discuss this topic, we have with us our subject expert, Dr. Bharat Singh. Dr. Singh is Associate Professor in Department of Economics in Satyavati College, University of Delhi. Without further ado, I would like to welcome sir to our studios and request him to start the lecture. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, and welcome all the audiences, particularly the students who are interested to know some of the basic concepts of the microeconomics. And we all know that different topics and theories of microeconomics are very useful in the decision making process of not only the producers but also the consumers. And besides these two aspects, the producers and consumers theory, the microeconomics theory is also applied in decision making theories like the theory of distribution and the welfare economics also. We all know that the resources in an economy are limited and human wants are unlimited, and resources have alternative uses. But before we go into the detail of that aspect, we should know that since time immemorial, every normal human being has been engaged in some or other kind of economic activity to satisfy his wants or needs. Some people are going to offices, some are going to the farm fields, some are doing agricultural activities, some are doing their business work, business activities, so on and so forth. Why are we engaged in some or other kind of economic activities? Because everybody wants to earn some livelihood, everybody wants to purchase some goods and services in order to satisfy his or her wants. So, in order to satisfy goods and services, we need, in order to satisfy our wants, we need certain amounts of goods and services, and the goods and services can be acquired by purchasing these goods and services from the market. In order to purchase these goods and services, all of us need some kind of income. So, the process through which we are engaged in some or other kind of the economic activities generates some kind of the income or resources which is used to satisfy our wants. This kind of economic activity is carried out through a very complex process involving millions and billions of decision makers who are unknown to each other in most cases. The decision regarding the production, what to produce and how much to produce, and what to consume, how much to consume, how to save, what channels of saving should be used, what channels of investment should be used, all these decisions are taken by several persons, several agencies, several entities which may go up to millions and billions, and these different segments of the decision makers, it is not necessary they are in contact with each other. So, this is a kind of very complex process of decision making which is carried out by different entities in an economy, and nowadays this decision making process has crossed the boundaries also, and this decision making process in a way has been globalized. All of us are engaged in such activities because every society in this world is confronted with following three basic facts of life. All of us always feel that human wants are unlimited, and this is not specific to a particular society, rather this is a universal problem that every economy, every society is facing this problem. And not only the human resource, the human wants are unlimited, but the resources to satisfy those wants are limited. And further, the resources have alternative uses. These are the three basic facts of human life that all of us confront at one stage or other. If we say that human wants are unlimited, what does it mean? What sense does it make? All of us might have felt that if one want is satisfied at any one point of time, the another want emerges, and this process of satisfying wants, one want, and emergence of new wants is again an ongoing process, and this process never ends. In a life cycle of mankind, since the time of his birth to death, we all feel that after satisfying one want, the second want emerges. If the second want is satisfied, the third want emerges. This process goes on continuously till the end of life of a person. Wants vary in their intensity. It is true that we have a lot of wants, and the wants are unlimited. If we satisfy one want, the other want emerges. But these different kinds of wants, they are not equally important from the point of view of a person or a consumer. The intensity of one want or necessity differs from one another. Some wants are very urgent, appear to be very urgent. They should be satisfied first, and the topmost priority should be given to the satisfaction of that want. Some wants may be necessary but not so necessary. So there is difference between the difference in the urgency among different kinds of the wants. If we say that resources at our disposal are very limited, the limited amount of resources is referred to in a relative context, and there is no absolute measure as to what amount of resources should be considered as more, and what kind amount of resources should be considered less. It is relative, considered in relation to the amount of wants or desires. What are important resources which are used to produce different goods and services? Land, labor, capital and enterprise are the resources which are used to satisfy human wants through the production of different goods and services, because these resources are used to produce different goods and services, which in turn is used to satisfy human wants. Therefore, these resources, land, labor, capital and enterprise, are also known as factors of production. What is land? Normally speaking, land is considered to be the surface of the earth, but this is not true from the economics point of view. Land includes all natural resources like soil, water, forest, sunlight, rainfall and minerals, etc. The supply of many of these natural resources is fixed. We know that the supply of sunlight is unlimited, but most of the supply, these natural resources are available in limited quantity, like say water, forest, and a quantity of minerals. Also, the surface area of land also is limited, and it is fixed in quantity. That should be kept in mind while using these resources. Labor is any physical or mental effort by a person to produce goods and services. Some of the effort may refer to the physical activity. The farmers are working in their fields using their physical capability, physical effort. The workers or laborers are working in the factories using their physical efforts. The managers, the teachers in the schools, the managers in the offices, the other office personnel are working in their offices, and so on and so forth, are using their mental effort to perform some duty or task. All these are part of labor, but they vary in their nature. One kind of labor effort is physical, the other kind of the effort by labor is mental. The labor, both the quality as well as quantity, varies according to time, space and condition. The capability of a particular labor, be it physical or mental, may vary according to time, may vary according to space, places, and may vary according to condition. We all know that during summer days, summer season, where the weather is very hot, the effort of the farmers working in the field or the workers working in the factories are reduced considerably. Or in the extreme weather conditions, or where the place is hostile for performing a job, the net amount of the work put in is reduced to a fair degree. So it varies according to time, space and condition. What is capital? It is another important factor of production of the resource. Capital is any asset which is used to produce further goods and services. These mainly include plants, machinery, buildings, equipments, and inventory of finished and unfinished goods. The capital is produced means of production, and there is another dimension to capital, that is known as human capital, and this human capital has come to acquire a very prominent place in modern process production, because this is given the quantity of other resources, land, labor and capital. If we have efficient and a trained and rich human resource, that is human capital, the quantity of output in terms of goods and services can be increased tremendously per unit of the other resources used. The efficiency and the capability of human resource, human capital, can be enhanced through the education, training and skill formation, etc. A well educated person can be a better human capital than a less educated person. A well trained person can perform his task much better than a non trained or semi trained worker or personnel. A highly skilled personnel can perform his job or task very well in much better way than a person who is semi skilled or unskilled. So education, training and skill formation plays a very important role in enhancing or enriching the human capital of a society or a nation. Entrepreneur, it is perhaps the most important and active factor of production. Why this is so? Because entrepreneur is one who arranges and combines all other factors of production and bears risk of profits and loss. Say, what is the reward of land? What is the factor reward of land? It is the rent. If land is used or if land is hired by any entity, say entrepreneur, by an entrepreneur, the land receives rent in lieu of its services rendered. And the owner of the land or the landlord has nothing to do with the profit and loss that may have been earned by the entrepreneur. Similarly, the labor is paid wages and skilled workers are paid salaries. So, wages and salaries paid to the laborers and other skilled workers are responsible for the receipt of their own rewards. They have again nothing to do with the profit and loss that may accrue to an entrepreneur. Similarly, capital receives interest as its factor reward, and again it is not concerned about the amount of profit or loss, profit generated by an entrepreneur or losses incurred by the entrepreneur. So it is the entrepreneur who is responsible for combining all these resources together in the most judicious manner and most suitable manner, so as to minimize the cost of production or maximize the profit for the entrepreneur. In this process, the risk is an inherent element involved there. And who bears the risk? It is the entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs bears the risk, and after paying the rewards to different factors of production, whatever is residue, it goes to the entrepreneur, and for the profit or loss, it is the entrepreneur who will ultimately be responsible for the rewards that goes to him or her. In modern mass production system, where every commodity is produced at mass scale, huge quantity of goods and services are produced using modern kind of machinery, plant, building and equipments. So in modern mass production system, there is separation of entrepreneurs from the managers. In a small scale industries, or where the quantity of output is small, we find that the entrepreneur and the manager is one and the same thing. It is the entrepreneur who manages his or her own business. But when the level of output, level of operation or the production increases at large scale, then it is not possible for the entrepreneur to manage the whole business or the manage the whole activities. Therefore, he has to employ some technicians, some technocrats, or some trained and qualified managers who the managers do their best to serve the interest of the entrepreneur, and they make all the judicious and appropriate decisions which results into the minimization of the cost incurred in the production of that goods and services, or maximization of profit for the entrepreneur. So it is ultimately the managers who try to earn profit on behalf of the entrepreneurs. So in large business entities, there is separation of entrepreneurship and the managers. The organization of business is separated from the entrepreneurs in large business entities. Therefore, the managers may be treated as another factor of production, and in lieu of the services rendered by a manager, the manager is paid salary, or in some cases he or she is also paid the share in the profit in form of the stock options and dividend from the earnings of the entity. Now, we have already mentioned earlier that human wants are unlimited, but the resources that we have just mentioned above are available in this world or in a particular economy or society in a limited quantity. The supply of these resources is scarce, limited. I would reiterate that the scarcity is not an absolute term. Scarcity is always relative. It is viewed, it is considered in relation to the requirements or demand for that particular resource. So, the limited supply in relation to the requirements or demand gives rise to the problem of scarcity. And the scarcity is the basic feature of every society or the economy. every economy, society or individual faces this problem of scarcity. Further, scarcity is universal in nature. It is universal in nature in the sense that it is found everywhere at all times, and since time immemorial the resources have been scarce. It has been available in the limited supply, and no civilization can claim that the supply of resources at our time was available in the unlimited quantity. This is not the case. The third problem, in the earlier paragraphs we mentioned that there are three basic facts of human life or human society, that is, human wants are unlimited, resources to satisfy those wants are limited, that gives rise to scarcity, and the third important basic fact of life is that resources have alternative uses. What do we mean by the alternative use of resources? The resources are available not only in the limited quantity, but they can be used in more than one way. A particular unit of resource can alternatively be used in more than one way and for more than one purpose. Say, for example, a plot of land, 1 acre of plot of land, can be used to produce food grains, or can be used to produce some commercial crops, or can be used to construct some pond or tank. Alternatively, the same plot of land can be used for some business purpose, to construct some house or to construct a school. So, a particular unit of resource has several uses. Similarly, a unit of electricity can be used to lit a house, to run the air condition, to run the train, or to operate a machine in a factory. So, this is the sense which is used in economics if we say that resources have alternative uses. The alternative use of resources creates the problem of choice before every decision maker, be it as a producer or as a consumer. The problem of scarcity and choice is faced at all levels, either by the individual or the firm or the government or all of these. So, if resources have alternative uses, it creates a problem of choice before the decision maker, in the sense that every entity, every decision maker, as an individual or as a firm or as a government entity, wants to use that particular unit of resource in such a manner that the output is maximized by using that resources. It is the motive, it is the objective of all the decision makers who are at the disposal of that particular unit of resource and who want to use it and who want to get some output out of it. The problem of choice emerges due to above mentioned three facts of human life, and which human wants are limited, resources are limited, and resources have alternative uses. The problem of choice in turn gives rise to several problems that are known as central problems of the economy, that we will discuss in the subsequent lectures. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome once again, all the viewers and the students. So we were discussing the problem of choice. We have already discussed the three basic facts of human life. That is, human wants are unlimited, resources to satisfy those wants are limited, and resources have alternative uses. And we have also discussed several dimensions related to these basic facts of human life, and how these three basic facts of human life create the problem of choice and scarcity. And in the subsequent part of the lecture, we will see as to how this problem of scarcity and choice give rise to several economic problems, which are also known as, in the literature of economics, as the central problems of an economy. The central problems of an economy exist in every economy of the world, be it a capitalist economy or a socialist economy or a mixed economy. No economy in this world can claim that these problems are not confronted by them, and because once we look at these problems, it will be very evident that every society, every economy, whatever may be the form of that economy, face the problem. According to Robbins, the economics or the central problems of an economy is the problem of choice or problem of economizing the use of resources. What do we mean by economizing of resources? I have already discussed this concept in a different manner earlier, that economizing of resources refers to the use of a particular unit of resource in such a manner that cost of producing the goods and services is minimized, or given the quantity of goods and services produced, the use of the resources is minimized, or given the unit of resources used, the quantity of goods and services is maximized. This is possible by using the appropriate technology and bringing about efficiency in the use of resources. So, according to the economist, the problem of choice and scarcity gives rise to the three most important central problems of an economy. One is what and how much to produce. Second is how to produce. And the third one is for whom to produce. These are very fundamental and interdependent problems of an economy. What and how much to produce is associated with how to produce, and in turn this problem how to produce is associated with for whom to produce, and collectively these problems may be treated as, may be termed as the problem of allocation of resources. If we talk of what and how much to produce, an economy cannot produce more of all the goods. So, it has to decide as to what to produce and how much to produce. And why this is so? Why this is the case that an economy cannot produce more of all the goods? Because resources are limited, and resources are limited. The limited amount of resources do not permit any producing entity or the economy to produce more of all the goods. Therefore, the producers have to make a choice as to which good or service has to be produced first, second, third, and so on and so forth. So, producers have to prioritize the production of different goods and services. The decision as to what to produce and how much to produce is directly related to the allocation of different quantities of resources in different uses. So, therefore, it is treated as the problem of allocation of resources among different goods and services. The choice of allocation of resources to a particular use depends on demand, cost of production, technology used, and existence of particular economic system which is capitalist, socialist, and mixed economic system. We will discuss in our later lectures the concept of capitalist economy, the socialist economy, and the mixed economic system. But here, for the sake of just clarity in brief, it would suffice to say that what to produce and how much to produce decision would differ in a capitalist economy from whatever is decided in a socialist economy or the decision made in a mixed economic system. It also depends on the allocation of resources or what to produce and how much to produce also depends on the quantum of demand in the market for a particular good or service. We all know that all the producers are guided by one of the most important objective, that is maximization of their profit or maximization of their sales revenue. So, therefore, how the profit or the revenue is maximized? When demand is more. When demand increases, the prices also tend to shoot up, and these two variables result into the increase in the revenue or the profit for the entrepreneurs or the producers. So, any producer cannot take risk to produce those goods and services which does not find enough quantity of demand in the market. Every producer or the entrepreneur would tend to produce that goods and service whose demand in the market is very high. And there is a struggle among the entrepreneurs, among the producers to acquire the maximum market share for that goods and services. So, the quantity of demand, the existence of a particular economic system, the technology used, and cost of production determines what to produce and how much to produce. The problem of allocation of resources is studied under the price theory in economics. Price theory, in other words, we can say it as microeconomics, which refers to topics like the consumer theory, the producers theory, the theory of cost, the theory of firms, market structure, so on and so forth. Now, what to produce primarily depends on consumer's choice. As I have just now mentioned, the consumers are king in the market, and the producers are guided by largely by the choice of the consumers, because they are guided by the profit maximization goal. So, therefore, the producers have to honor the consumer's choice. Sometimes the government too can decide what to produce irrespective of the choice of the consumer. The government has to take such a decision as to what to produce and how much to produce irrespective of the consumer's choice in the larger social interest. If the government wants to promote the consumption of a particular good or service, or if it wants to serve the interest of particular section of the society, it may choose to produce that goods and services, and indirectly there is allocation and reallocation of resources among different goods and services by this decision of the government or its agencies. So, what to produce in a nutshell is a problem of allocation of resources that is clear by now. How to produce, this is the second important central problem of an economy, that every economy in this world is faced with the choice of techniques. How to produce is a problem of choice of technique. Every economy, every producer is interested to use that particular technique of production which results into minimization of its cost for the given level of output or maximization of output for given level of cost. So, this is possible, either the maximization of output for a given level of input or minimization of cost for a given level of output is possible only when the producers or the entrepreneurs are using the appropriate technology, or they are combining different factors of production in the most judicious manner. There may be several techniques to produce a particular commodity or service. Several technologies are available. Broadly speaking, there can be two types of techniques of production. One technique may be referred to as the capital intensive technique, and the other technique may be referred to as the labor intensive technique. Since producers are mostly guided by the consideration of cost minimization and profit maximization, so they would use the most appropriate technology out of these two techniques available. The use of inappropriate technology may result into the distortions in the use of resources and wastage of resources, as well as the increased cost of production. What are the circumstances under which a particular entrepreneur or an economy chooses a particular technique of production, either labor intensive or capital intensive? It all depends on the factor endowment of that particular economy, or it depends on as to which of these two important factors of production, labor or capital, are available in abundant quantity in that particular economy. If an economy is a labor abundant economy, it would be appropriate for the producers there to use the labor intensive technique of production, and similarly a capital abundant economy should use the capital intensive technique of production. Only by doing this they can be able to minimize their cost of production and maximize their output. Third important central problem is for whom to produce. This problem, for whom to produce, is in fact relates to the question of the distribution of national income among different agents of production or among different sections of society. The different, if we say the different agents of production, we refer to the land, labor, capital and enterprise, because in the process of production, when goods and services are produced, the output gets distributed among these agents of production in form of rent, wages, interest and profit. So, here which factor gets the appropriate reward or gets its appropriate due is related to, and which factor does not get is again a question of the inequality in the distribution of income and wealth, and this central problem as to for whom to produce is related to the problem of this inequality, existence of inequality of income and wealth in an economy. This problem is studied under the theory of distribution, where we study or discuss different theories of the determination of prices of different factors of production. Since we have already discussed these three prominent, very primary central problems of an economy, most important central problems of economy, there are some other problems also which is being faced by each and every economy, and these problems were pointed out by the famous economist R.G. Lipset. These economic problems, as mentioned by R.G. Lipset, are first, fuller utilization of resources. Every economy attempts to employ all its resources up to the fullest possible extent, particularly the labor as a factor of production, and this employment of labor and as to how to achieve the level of full employment of labor is studied under the theory of income and employment. It is a subject matter of macroeconomics. The second important problem, according to Lipset, is economic efficiency. Efficiency in production and distribution. Efficiency in production refers to efficiency in production and distribution. It is a situation. What is the situation of economic efficiency? It is a situation where it is impossible to produce anything more without producing anything less, or make anyone better off without making anyone worse off. It is a topic of welfare economics. If it is not possible to produce more of any quantity, any commodity, without producing less of another commodity, it means resources are optimally utilized and fully utilized with using appropriate technology, and the economy is working very efficiently, and this situation is referred to as economic efficiency. The third important problem, according to Lipset, is a problem of economic growth. This refers to question of increasing the productive capacity of the economy. What is economic growth? Economic growth is the increase in the level of income, output and employment in an economy, or increasing productive capacity of the economy. This increase in output or economic growth is attained by increasing the level of saving and economy, and every economy has to try to increase its rate of economic growth to improve the level of living or a standard of living of its citizens. Because if an economy does not make any effort for augmenting its economy rate of economic growth, then there will be a static situation in the economy, and the level of living, level of consumption in the economy, the level of welfare of the people in general will not improve without achieving a high level of economic growth in that economy. So, economic growth is also quite important problems to be confronted by each and every economy. Now, after discussing the central problems of an economy, the problem of scarcity and choice, and three other problems mentioned by Lipset, we would speak something about the production possibility schedule and production possibility curve. The production possibility schedule, that is PPS, refers to the tabular presentation of various goods and services, various combinations of two goods and services that an economy can produce when resources are fully and efficiently utilized. So, an economy may have different combinations of two goods, say X and Y. If one unit of X is produced, it may be combined with some other units of some quantity of Y, and if we try to increase the quantity of X, the unit of Y may be reduced, and vice versa. But this is possible under the situation when resources are fully and efficiently utilized. This is a tabular presentation of different combinations of the output of two goods and services. The same table, if represented through a diagram or graph, it is known as production possibility curve. The production possibility curve is a diagrammatic presentation of PPS or different combinations of the two goods that an economy can produce under the condition of full utilization of resources and efficient utilization of the resources. So, in a way we can say that PPC is diagrammatic presentation of PPS. It is also known as production possibility frontier. The production possibility schedule can be better understood with the help of this table. The first column of this production possibility schedule shows different possibilities, different combinations like A, B, C, D, P, A, B, C, D, E, and P prime, etc. Then we have second column mentioning different quantities of good X, and third column shows different quantities of good Y. So, take for example, combination A depicts one unit of good X combined with 20 units of good Y. Given the situation that resources are fully utilized and resources are being used in the most efficient manner. Now, if the economy decides to increase the production of good X, it is possible when some quantity of good Y is sacrificed. So, here in this example, in order to produce one additional unit of X, the economy has to sacrifice 3 units of good Y. Again, if the economy decides to produce another more unit of good X, it has to sacrifice 3 units of good Y. And this process continues if the economy decides to produce more of X and less of Y. This transformation, this is a kind of transformation of resources from good Y to good X, and the rate at which good Y is being converted into good X is known as the marginal rate of transformation. This is the change in quantity of Y, the quantity of Y sacrificed for gaining one additional unit of X. So, here in this table we see that this MRTS XY, marginal rate of transformation of X for Y, goes on increasing. This is the difference between each subsequent unit of output produced of commodity Y. 21 minus 21, 20 minus 18, 3, 2, 18 minus 15, 3, so on and so forth. So, this rate goes on increasing. Why this rate MRTXY? This is also demonstrated as delta Y upon delta X, which shows that as the resources are, more and more resources are withdrawn from the production of Y and more resources are devoted to the production of X, the efficiency of the use of resources goes on declining. Therefore, each additional unit of X, the production of each additional unit of X requires more of Y to be sacrificed. The same production possibility curve can be shown with the help of a diagram, but before we show the diagram, it is necessary to throw some light on the assumptions of the PPC. First assumption is that only two goods are produced in the economy. This is very important assumption, although it is not practically possible. Second is quantity of resources available in the economy are given. Third is resources are fully employed. Next is resources can alternatively be used to various options, and the state of technology is assumed to remain constant. This is the PPC diagram. The first diagram shows the three combinations A, B and C, and OX axis represents good X, OY axis represents quantity of good Y, and every economy, if all its resources are fully utilized, efficiently utilized, then it would either operate on point A, B or C of the PPC. If it is operating on point D, it means either the resources are underutilized or resources are not efficiently utilized, it is inefficiently utilized. The point E is not possible for the economy to attain because it is beyond the capacity of the economy and the resources are not enough to reach point E. In case the economic growth of the economy increases, economy grows in subsequent stages, then in that case it is possible to attain point E, and if the resources have increased, the quantity of resources have increased, the production capacity of the economy has increased, the PPC would shift to upwards, which is shown in the this diagram, and this is all about the production possibility curve and the central problem. Thank you very much to all of you.
Dear friends, on that note, we would like to thank Dr. Singh for coming to our show and delivering this wonderful lecture. And thank you, dear friends, for watching our show. Stay tuned and keep watching. Thank you.